Well, thanks y'all for joining me. Spam along, Chris, and hopefully we can get through part two. I don't have any more computer malfunctions. I hate that I'm probably running all over other people's streams tonight. Sean, that means you. I'm really sorry. I should have been done 2 hours ago. Um, Unfortunately, I decided I wasn't going to buy a new Mac. And I would try to run an 8-year-old one with a hack software. So, it hacked all right. Hacked right up the ground and screwed me. So let's try to pick up where we were. It hacked its own lung up, is what it did. I salvaged it. I don't know how, but I did. We'll pick up with the detective. His testimony. He's their tech officer or cell phone guy. Let me make sure I got it pulled up. We're way too advanced. Yeah, there should be it. Nope, too far. Hopefully, I don't screw it up any more than I already have. Let's hope. Lore? I don't know. There's a lore. Lore enforcement. No, I was too high. I don't remember. Mass communications? Dude, seriously? You got 2 useless degrees? You not only did 1, he did 2. Of course, I can't say much. I have 2 useless degrees too. FSPs. Second, yeah, yeah, details. Second-hand jobs. Damn. Worcester, as in Worcester v. Georgia, 1832. We just did that case review of that case the other night. Yeah, I'm being a dork. Y'all please go over and watch Sean over at Potentially Criminal. Please do that because I think I'm probably going to step on. I think I'm stepping on him tonight on accident. So please head on over there to check him out. Cellbrite, the Israeli cell phone hacking software. Damn. Hex key. It's probably on hexadecimal digits too. Oh, hell, this ain't even sharing, is it? Hell no. Damn. At least I caught it. Shit. What a damn day. This is one of those days you should just give up on. Just fucking quit.
Program holds
Just
that
quit.
information. We have to place it
Oh,
onto our
me.
secure server at the office, and we'll take any of the files that
There
were
we
given
go.
via the extraction process, and it's saved there for us.
And so you copy it on another link or another digital file?
Yes, we'll save it to the server at the district attorney's office.
Can it be put on a physical item, like a zip drive or a hard drive?
Yes.
If you put that download onto a zip drive or hard drive, how will you know if that information on the hard drive matches the same information you originally downloaded from the phone to the server through Great Key?
Again, like I said, you could run the hash value of that file again to correlate it with the PDF that we were given once Great Key has given us the information. So that's how you would know all the information.
He's already been declared an expert
So for example,
witness.
if you download an iPhone,
That must
and it has
happen
that
during my
digital fingerprint hash
kerfuffle
value
too.
attached to it,
So.
and you make a copy or multiple copies, is the way to test whether or not those copies are exactly accurate is to look at the hash value of each copy?
Yes, and copying the zip file would not change the hash value. The only way it would change is if you physically went into it and deleted information somehow.
So now that you have the item, say for example an iPhone, and you've downloaded it through Great Key, which is hardware and software, and it's on a digital file, can you just open it up and start reading it like a report or a book, or do you have to do something else to it?
No, once it's pulled into that zip file, it has to be opened into another program, which there are many forensic tools, but the ones at the office we use are Celebrate or Axiom. They're just two brands, and then those programs make that information readable so we can actually look at it.
So if
We use a lot of this in child
a
pornography
forensic copy,
cases.
and you were to open it up without using that subsequent software, would you be able to read or see anything that's on
A
that data?
lot of them.
To be honest, I don't know because I've never opened one of those zip files to know what's actually in them.
After the extraction happens, after that copy made, did you mention this further software you would use to be able to actually read the data?
Yes, so that's Celebrate and then Axiom. They're two different programs, but those programs will make the information readable.
Are those the programs that you typically use?
Yes, they are. And there's other programs out there, but those are the two that we normally use at the office.
Are they commonly used in the Massachusetts State Police?
Yes, they are.
Are there other programs beyond Axiom and Celebrate that can be used to decipher the information so you can read it?
Yes, there's many.
In your entire time with the Massachusetts State Police, have you used
Not
any other
that I
program
know
other
of
than
that's ever
Axiom or
used.
Celebrate?
Those are it.
To look at cell phones?
Yes.
We have
Wish I'd have bought
Samson forensic
stock in 'em.
software that can look at databases that are in the phone to look at information. I don't normally use those because I don't want to say I'm probably not proficient enough that I would know this exactly means this, or I wouldn't want to confuse anything that I'm looking at.
When you look at the information after it's been through the extraction and then the analysis through the software, is the data still available if you want to look into the data?
They're trying to
Yes,
set out
yes, it's always
guidelines that
available.
this
It's-
software that they're using is not going to screw up and corrupt data, so that what you see is what you get. That's the whole point of this. Is with Kyle Rittenhouse, where they caught him actually using compression and decompression of the video file, which did cause a distortion on the video. That was the point of that too. So they're trying to prove that, look, what we've got is what we've got. This is valid. And it's got to be a repeatable. I'm sure they're on the Alabama uses the Frost standard for scientific expert witnesses. I'm sure this is Dalbert. So that's the basis without getting into too much too many weeds.
Like I said, the data in the zip file that Great Key gives us has never changed. It's just being loaded into another program so we can see it. That's all.
The software that you use, whether it's Cellbrite or Axiom, does that do the work for you as a forensic examiner?
Yes. So it runs, as the program runs, I should say, it will bring up different tabs. So it'll say phone calls, chats, photos, the databases, all different things that Cellbrite, their software, has run to pull this information out to make it easier for investigators to find what they're looking for.
Beyond the initial report that you can look at and look for the information, if you wanted to as a data forensic examiner, could you look deeper beyond the production of those software programs?
Yes, you could.
Forensic data analysis, when you look at these tools that provide these initial reports, is that the beginning or does it dig deeper when you're a digital forensic analyst?
No, these reports are finding the low-hanging fruit in the proverbial tree. So it's showing you the stuff that the program is set that most people are looking for. As I said, the phone calls, the chats. If you need to go deeper into it, as I said, there's other software out there where you can pull these databases and try to go through the code to find what you're looking for. Once you find something, you have to corroborate it with other evidence or data to make sure what you're looking at is exactly what you're looking for.
Have you been involved in the download, extraction, and analyzing data on phones as your role with the Massachusetts State Police?
Yes, that's my primary role in the DA's office currently.
And how many years have you been in that role?
Since November of 2019, so 5 years now.
Have you worked on a number of different cases that involve forensic data?
Yes, I have.
Is there a routine or a practice in your present role when you make a copy about what process you use and how you produce it in a case?
I wouldn't say there's a normal process. It's all case dependent. A lot of cases we get, people want PDFs of the information, portable cases that we can create. So it's basically the portable program that I'm using. That way someone can find the information they're looking for, or I give the raw information if requested.
What's the difference between PDF form and raw information?
So Cellbrite can create a PDF form of every bit of information on the phone. It could be like a 10,000 page PDF. It literally just lists everything that's in there. If I create a portable case, as I said, that is basically like me giving you the thumb drive and it's showing you exactly what I'm seeing. And you can click on the tabs yourself from your own computer. And then if I give the raw file, that means someone has to go in and load it themselves to look for it.
Typically, when you are producing evidence of discovery in a case, do you produce PDF or the raw file?
As I said, it's all case dependent. Not all cases have forensic experts come in to look at the information. So I'll supply whatever is requested. Normally the PDF or the portable case is what I give, but if more is requested, that's readily available.
And so the raw data if requested, do you provide that as well?
Yes, if requested.
In this case, were you involved in any type of forensic data extraction?
Yes, I did the extractions of multiple phones and analyzed multiple phones in this case.
You mentioned that there's a software and hardware, the Gray Key unit. Where's that located?
That's located in the Digital Forensics Laboratory, which is key card access and alarmed. Excuse me, at that Newark DA's office.
Are there other cases or the multiple cases that are occurring at the same time?
Yes, we constantly have phones coming in and out and being worked on.
What if you have a phone and the Gray Key unit's being used? What do you need to do?
We need to wait for that phone to finish because if we say we unplugged it, it would interrupt that data transfer and we could lose it. So we wait until the phone's done and then the next phone goes up.
Did you become involved in some way in this case?
I meant to say yet again
devices, sir?
Well, I'm asking generally for.
Yes, sorry, yes.
Were you
that although I am a licensed attorney in the state of Alabama and have been for almost 15 years and have practiced in 4 states, I am not your attorney. So do not ask advice. Do not seek advice. Go find you a lawyer. You can go to your state bar website and find one. Do not take it as advice. This is just my commentary and usually me screwing up or doing something stupid in the meantime. So you get to watch me look like a fool. Now let's try to continue.
involved in investigating this case as far as speaking to witnesses or going to the scene?
No.
Can you describe best you can what your role was relative to this case?
Yes. So I was brought, as I said, phones from this case to have the data extracted and then have it ready in our Cellbrite program for the investigators to look at.
At some point, were you provided a phone that you later identified as a phone belonging to Mr. John O'Keefe?
Yes, I was.
Do you remember when you were provided that phone?
Yes, it would be January 29th, 2022, about 7:30 p.m. that night.
Do you remember where you received that phone from?
Yes, I was at the DA's office. I got it from Sergeant Mechanic and Michael Proctor.
Do you remember about what time of night that was?
As I said, about 7 to 7:30 p.m.
Thank you. When you received that phone, did you have the passcode?
No, we didn't.
Without the passcode, what were your next steps?
So the phone was placed in our digital forensics lab until we could get the passcode. I was told that a family member was going to be bringing it in so we could download the device.
Did you ultimately get that passcode?
Yes, we did.
And do you remember when you received it?
January 31st, 2022.
After you received the passcode for Mr. O'Keefe's phone, can you walk us through the process of what you did?
Yep. So once the passcode's obtained, we'll unlock the phone and then plug it into Gray Key, and then it's able to pull the full information from it without having to guess the passcode.
How long does that take?
Again, depending on the size of the phone, a few hours.
After the information was downloaded, then what happened?
We placed on our digital evidence server at the DA's office, and then if the phone is evidence, it would go into evidence. If it was a consent, we give it back to the person who gave it to us immediately.
Did this phone go into evidence?
Yes, it did.
When you downloaded the information through GrayKey, which you said was the hardware and software, does it produce a report with that digital imprint?
Yes, it does. It produces a report from the time you plug it in to the process it completes, and then the amount of data, and then, like I said, that digital fingerprint hash value at the end.
And did you do that with this phone, Mr.
Yes,
phone?
I
May I
did.
approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Highlight. I'm going to show you a document, sir.
Okay, sir. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Did you show it to Mr. Leslie?
I'm sorry. Right here.
I don't know why, but this judge looks like a ball ball. I haven't kept up with this case. This is like literally my first experience with it.
I'm showing you a document. Can you look both pages, please?
Okay.
Do you recognize that document?
Yes, this is the
This is my first take,
What is
in
it?
other words.
it's the GrayKey progress report that they give once the phone extractions are completed.
Do you recognize that as the report that is attributed to John O'Keefe's phone?
Yes,
And does that document have that digital imprint, the digital fingerprint that you were talking about?
yes. So it's in. Yeah. So it's here on the. I just want to see if it was in two places. But it would be
Yeah.
here for the. Sorry, it's got cut off, but
I'll ask you a question.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce this individual, please. No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Is it 18th of March?
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
May I show that exhibit to the jury? May I approach the witness, show him the pointer?
Yes.
This is a different type of software from, it's similar to Cellbrite. Both do the same
On this
thing,
top button,
literally.
will be the pointer, the middle button will change the screen, so.
iPhone 11.
Can you walk us through what this report means?
Weird.
Yep. So here at the top, here it is. Again, it says GrayKey progress report, and then it gives the report generation date and time, and it's in UTC, which is
12.1.
get the exact definition, universal time coordinates, I believe. So you'd have to minus 4 or 5
Believe?
hours depending on daylight savings time. So this one would be
Zulu time there,
January
buddy.
5. 16 times will be 1 noon, 12 o'clock for the actual time on the 31st. As you go down, device name is Johnny. The software version is the Apple iOS that was running at the time. Model number iPhone 11.
Dumbass, it
And then
depends on what
if you
time of
were to
year it
look up
is.
the N104 keys,
GMT
also
is
a model number.
+5 Eastern
The
usually.
Device ID. This one is what GrayKey assigns to the.
I think
zip
in
file
winter
that
it can
creates
be as low as
the serial
+4.
number of the phone, the unique chip ID, the Wi-Fi address, the Bluetooth address, and then the phone number, and then there's more information underneath.
Could we scroll that, please? Thank you.
This here is the IMEI, which is the International Mobile Equipment Identifier.
Correct.
It's not uncommon now to have multiple of those identifying numbers. The data partition size of the device, which is 83 gigabytes. The locked state, if the phone was locked, it would say locked. This one is unlocked, so we have the passcode. This was the GrayKey agent version for the software. And then this is the last time that the phone was backed up via iTunes or iCloud. This is the owner's name. You can have anything in this, but his phone had John O'Keefe set as the iPhone owner name, and then the different accounts attributed to the phone.
Okay. Can you show us where the digital fingerprint is?
Yep, it's down. So that the top part here is literally every time when it's plugged in to every process that it completes until the progress report is generated. Here is the full file system was created on this date and time, and then even though the partition size was 82 gigabytes, it actually pulled 125 gigabytes of data. Underneath this, if you're on the next page, is that unique fingerprints right here. So it has two, a SHA-256 and an MD5. They're just two versions of hashing to show that the file, they're unique fingerprints, and that's what these numbers are here. So there's one for the image of the extraction, and then one for the keychain for the other documents. That
MD5 is a
You
checksum.
mentioned that if anything
Make sure
changes
the
in
data
period,
is
that,
correct.
Number and letter sequence will change as well.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Did you have an opportunity to download and extract any other phones?
Yes,
At some point, did you have an opportunity to download and extract a phone from the defendant?
yes, I did.
Do you remember when you received that phone?
I got the phone the same time as I got Mr. O'Keefe's phone on the 29th around 7:30 at night.
And so you received both phones at the same time
Yes,
from the same people?
correct.
Trooper Buchanan?
Yes,
Trooper Proctor?
yes.
What did you do with that phone?
Again, that was brought down to the digital forensics lab for holding until we could get into it, or a warrant was written, or whatever legal process was going to be done, so we could get that information.
Do you secure it?
Yes, that room is locked with keycard access that only myself and 2 others have, and it's also alarmed.
Do the case officers or investigators that aren't part of your unit have access to those items?
No, the only ones that had access were myself, Trooper Connor Keefe, and then the director, Samantha Vogt. She's a civilian that runs our lab.
Okay. And at that point, were you able, after there was process, were you able to get into the phone at first?
No, it wasn't supported by GrayKey, phone model and number.
What do you mean it wasn't supported?
So the software, even if we had a search warrant, we plugged it in, GrayKey wouldn't be able to recognize it because it just wasn't supported at that time.
When you say it wasn't supported, does that have anything to do with a passcode?
For both. So we didn't have the passcode. So because we didn't have it, it wasn't supported for us to download that information from the device.
If you had a passcode, would it have been supported?
Yes, it would have been.
So is there a process when you have a phone that you don't have a passcode for to be able to access the content of the phone?
Yes, that's correct. We have to wait until we either have the passcode or the software and hardware is supported for the device where it can try to guess the passcode.
So let me ask you some questions about software. In forensic data analysis, does software change frequently?
Constantly.
When the software changes, does it advance?
Does the software get better?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
At the time you first had the defendant's phone, the software you had was unable to access the contents.
That is correct.
What do? Do you look for other software or do you wait for updates? What's the process?
If there is another software out there, we will use it to try to get the information. If not, we are at the mercy of waiting for the developers to come up with the information for us.
Did you wait in this case?
Yes, we did. We had to wait.
Ultimately, did software advance so that without a passcode you were able to access?
Yes.
How long did you have to wait before you were able to access?
I believe it was July of 2022 that the software had been upgraded enough that it was able to brute force or guess her passcode for the device.
And where does the device remain until you're ready to try again?
In that block's digital forensics lab.
So when the software updates and advances, do you know that it will be successful or you plug it in and you try?
No. So on Great Key, they have like a link where you can click and it brings up a whole matrix which shows every make, model of phone and then the software associated with it. And it says it can do a partial download, a full download, a password guess. And it tells us. So when there's a new update, we'll check that to make sure that the devices we have can be accessed.
Did you make an attempt to have the software access the phone without a passcode?
Objection, Your Honor. Will you approach, please?
Yeah, I guess this is gonna take forever. There we go.
Thank you. Did you use software inevitably to open the defendant's phone?
Yes.
And how many times did you download?
So there was 2 downloads. One, thank you. One of the partial part of the phone, and then we, in the same time that we had it plugged in, we had the password brute force guess software installed onto the phone, so we would try to guess the passcode. So there were 2 downloads, one with very limited data, and then one with the full file system extraction, which is everything on the phone that it can get.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'm going to show you 2 documents, sir.
This was, yes.
Did you get a copy? Did you just get an extra copy of the phone? I'm going to show you 2 documents. The first one, do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
Is that a result summary from Great Key for a search of the defendant's phone?
This is the initial extraction that we created before the password guess process went through.
I'd like to introduce this as an exhibit, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
That's the original.
Yes, this is the first one.
Is it 19?
I showed you a second document. Do you recognize that?
Yes, this is essentially the same information, except it goes further of all the password guess attempts longer until we actually get all the information from the phone.
I'd like to introduce this as the next exhibit, please.
No objection, Mr. Leslie?
No objection, Your Honor.
Ready? So Mark.
Go ahead. You introduce exhibit as well, please. Sir, I'm handing you back exhibit 19, which was the partial download.
Okay.
Exhibit 20, which was the subsequent download. You mentioned hash value changes with the content of each download.
Yes,
Is there hash values specifically assigned to each download?
yes, there is.
Are they the same number and digits in digital fingerprint?
No, they're not.
And explain again why they would be different.
Again, the first one was the partial. It was only 45 gigabytes of data, so it has one number. The second download was 109 gigabytes of data once you got the passcode. And again, that number is completely different again. And again, like I said, the information is not the same, so the hash values won't be the same.
Were there 2 other phones that you inevitably analyzed?
Yes, there were.
Let's start with the first one. Did you have an opportunity to create a file on a phone that came from Kerry Roberts?
Yes, I did.
Now, you said it's a 2-step process. First is the extraction, the copying, and then it's creating the file.
That's exactly right.
With Kerry Roberts' phone, did you make the extraction? Did you plug it into the Great Key?
No, I didn't.
Who did?
Trooper Connor Keefe.
How do you know Trooper Connor Keefe?
He went to meet with Carrie Roberts, received the device from her. He brought it back to the office and did the extraction. His name is also on the extraction Great Key progress reports as well. And he wrote 2 state police reports regarding it.
Do you work with Connor Keith?
Yes.
He works with, I'm sorry.
I would say we do essentially the same job working together.
So he's in your unit,
Yes, he is.
in the digital forensic unit.
That's correct.
That phone, did it come with any paperwork, any forms?
Yes, he had 2 signed waivers of consent from both parties for each device, one for each device.
And so as far as the copying, the extraction, you did not do the extraction on Terry Roberts' phone?
No, I did not.
After it was plugged in and a copy was made, did you then access it?
Months down the road.
Were you assigned at that point to analyze or look at any of the data on that phone?
Initially, no.
At some point, did you create a file so that you could provide it to the parties?
Yes, I did.
Was that upon request?
Yes, it was.
And separately, did you know or did you, let me ask it a different way, was a phone from Jennifer McCabe extracted?
Yes, it was.
Did you do the extraction?
No, I did not.
Was the information after extracted again provided to a digital file?
It would have been, yes.
Did you, at some point later, did you make a copy to provide to the parties?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us what a USEF reader is?
So the UFED reader is a portable case that I can create through Cellbrite. Again, like I said, it's the exact same program that I would be viewing if I was sitting on my desktop and said it can be made into a thumb drive to give to defense, prosecution, investigators, whoever. And there's no chance for the data to be manipulated because it's just a reader.
When you have the digital file that's been extracted and then created into a PDF or form that can be read, can you print the entire file on paper if you'd like?
Yes, you could.
Would that include, could you print it so it includes the entire content of the phone?
Yes, it would be thousands of pages, but yes, you could.
Is there any way to isolate particular things of interest that you might want? For example, if you wanted just the chats between 2 people, is there a way that you could have a program isolate just those chats and then give you all of them in a form that you could read?
Yes, so you can go in to cherry pick whatever information you're looking for to create into PDFs or other, gives 5, I think, different mediums you can have output, HTML, portable cases, XML files.
If you wanted to create a document that had a number of people in communications, could you do that as well?
Yes, you could.
So you can pretty much set the parameters how you want if you want to search for particular items.
Yes, it's very generous that way of being able to search for keywords, phone numbers, whatever it is, and then you can export that out into a PDF so you can print it.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Did you go through the program and create a number of documents that isolated specific information that you wanted?
Yes,
For example, did you go through and create a report for all of John O'Keefe's calls for a period of time?
yes, I did.
Did you go through the program and create a report for all of the calls between John O'Keefe and the defendant for a period of time?
Yes, I did.
Did you go through the program and create a specific document that would show just the text messages between John O'Keefe and the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Did you go through the phone and create specific separate documents for communications, phone calls, and text messages between Mr. O'Keefe and other people, not the defendant?
Yes,
For example, Ms. Roberts,
yes, that's correct.
Ms. McKay.
Yep.
Did you go through any of the phones and create documents to show any text or conversation between parties not involved with John O'Keefe?
If directed, I could, but I don't believe I did.
When you took on the task of creating these documents, was it something you did on your own or something that you would wait for a request from a prosecutor or another officer?
I would wait for a request. Again, my knowledge of most of the cases is very, very limited. So if they're looking for something specific, I can assist them. If they need some type of help, I can assist them. But normally I will open it up for them and they have a better knowledge of the case, so they know what they're going to be looking for. Everyone in our office is Cellbrite trained. Or if someone new comes in, that's the first thing they'll go to is to a Cellbrite trained, so they know how to use this program. And it doesn't put the burden on myself and Trooper Keefe to try to find everything for every case.
Thank you. John, at this time, I'd like to conclude this witness's testimony to be recalled again.
You're in agreement with that, Mr. Leslie?
We are, Your Honor, subject to the recall.
All right, Trooper, you're all set.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We'll see you again.
Meaning he can be pulled back at any time and he's not basically free to just go on about his life. He may be called back for more
Do you have
testimony.
another witness, Mr.
But he's
Brennan?
not been
May I?
dismissed.
Yes, please.
Commonwealth calls Mr. Whitley.
I tell you, dealing with clients that are successful and rich is really complicated and annoying because they don't know how to take no for an answer, even though no is no.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir,
In the
please
law.
introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Daniel Whitley, W-H-I-T-L-E-Y. I'm a paramedic at the Canton Fire Department. I've been a paramedic and firefighter there since March of 2006.
Before you became
Oh,
a paramedic firefighter with the Canton Fire Department, did you work anywhere else related to that field?
Yes, I had 4 years full-time as a EMT intermediate, and also a paramedic at American Medical Response in Bracken.
I'd like to take us right to January 29, 2022.
Yes.
Do you remember that day?
Yes.
Were you working?
Yes.
What was your role that day?
I was a field training officer working on the ambulance with my partner, Jason Becker.
Mr. Becker?
Correct.
And that morning, did you know whether there was a call where a group of your colleagues went to address 34th Fairview?
Yes.
Were you accompanying your colleagues on that initial call?
No.
Where were you at the time your colleagues left to go to that location?
I was at the Station 2, Pond Park Station, on the north side of town.
Different station?
Correct.
At some point after that call came in and was responded to you, did you receive a call?
Sometime after, I'm not quite sure exactly how soon or later it was, but we received another call to respond to that scene.
As a result of receiving that call, did you make your way towards that location?
Yes.
Who did you go there with?
Just me and my partner at that time was Jason Becker.
What type of vehicle did you use to get there?
It was an ambulance.
What was the weather like?
It was snowing pretty heavily at that point.
Do you know about how long it took you to get to 34th Fairview?
Not exactly, but definitely longer than usual. It should have been an 8-minute drive. I'm guessing 10 to 12 minutes. You can refer to my partner's report for exacts.
When you got there, what did you see?
We arrived on scene. Our engine was there before we run on response with an engine and an ambulance, 2 medical calls, and then at least 2 police cruisers and another car parked on the street, a gray SUV.
When you got there, did you meet with anybody?
Yeah, usually we get out, we say hi to my lieutenant and the other gentleman, Sam Parker, was on the engine before we got there. They were up front of where we parked, and then we walked down further, or at least I did, to the gray SUV.
When you reached the gray SUV, did you see anybody inside it?
I believe at that point we were kind of, getting out. We were walking down, they were coming out to greet us. There were 3 women there.
Okay. Did you speak to any of them in particular?
Not at that point, no, not really.
At some point, did you have any interaction with any of the women?
Yes.
In fact, did you know any of the women who were there that morning?
I knew Carrie Roberts.
How did you know Kerry Roberts?
Well, first we're neighbors. She lives about 100, 200 yards away from me, around the corner.
Does everybody know everybody here?
She helped organize the neighborhood block party, and I would volunteer every year to bring them to fire truck to
Like
block party to
Alabama,
kids.
but not
Fire truck for a
Massachusetts.
little bit.
So you knew
Yes,
her well?
it's that way everywhere.
Were you friends with her?
Rednecks
No.
everywhere.
Friendly?
I just would describe us as acquaintances.
Did you ever socialize with her personally, other than the block party?
No.
But you know who she was?
I knew who she was. I don't recognize her, yes.
Did you talk to her that morning?
Not beyond probably a pay or high or something like that.
Do you know whether she ever gave you any items?
I know at one point I had to exchange, whether it was a purse or a cell phone or some object from Ms. Reed.
At some point that morning, did you have an opportunity to meet with the defendant?
Yes.
Where did you first see her?
We were in the process of getting her to go to the hospital.
When you say we, who was helping you?
That would be, my partner, obviously, Jason Becker, and then my lieutenant, Greg Woodbury.
Where was she when you first saw her?
Somewhere outside in the street.
Do you recognize her in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you identify her, please?
Yes.
Please. You're pointing to a person. Can you give just a very limited?
The woman standing, sitting in between these 2 gentlemen here.
Did you interact with her that morning? Have a conversation?
Yes.
When you first started speaking to her, what was her demeanor?
Pretty upset, crying. We had a Section 12 in hand, which is a medical order or a police order to be taken to the hospital for a psychological evaluation.
Did you discuss that with her?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you ask her to follow you or to come with you?
Yeah, she did.
Did that happen?
To the ambulance, correct.
So you went to the ambulance with the defendant?
Yeah.
And was Mr. Becker with you?
Yes.
What happens when you get to the ambulance?
So it was snowing, and it was more to kind of just get everybody into a nice warmer location where it wasn't snowing or windy or anything like that. And we were discussing that, we have a Section 12 that states we, regardless of if you want to go, we have to take you to the hospital. She was arguing that she really didn't need to go to the hospital, and we were trying to convince her to go to the hospital because once the Section 12 is written, it doesn't matter what the patient says, we have to get them there one way or the other, whether it's cooperatively restrained or chemically restrained with sedatives or anything.
It's not a voluntary order?
It is not a voluntary order.
Inevitably, did the defendant agree to go with you to the hospital?
Yes.
When you were going to return to the hospital, was the defendant placed in the back of the ambulance where a patient would
Correct.
be?
So how we operate for anybody that's a Section 12 or anybody that is under the influence of anything, we always operate with 2 people in the back of the ambulance. So myself and my partner, Jason Becker, were back there. And then we had to take somebody from the engine company and have them drive to the hospital, and that was Sam Bach.
Sam Bach?
Bach, B-O-C-H.
Thank you. Before you left, before you started to drive away from Fairview, were you having any conversations with the defendant?
Yes.
Can you share with the jury what those conversations were about?
So we were talking. She was upset. She kept asking if there was any chance her husband could be alive, and even sitting outside in the snow with no coat on for many hours. And
Did she indicate what many hours meant? How many?
no,
How often did she raise the issue of whether or not, or how long he could be out for?
I'd say at least 3 or 4, maybe more.
Part of your job is to care for patients?
Correct. Yes.
Was part of your job to try to get them to the location safely?
Yes.
And sometimes you treat patients with physical injuries, don't you?
Oftentimes it is physical injuries. Yes.
Are you trained when you're trying to transport somebody, how to interact with them?
Yes. Well, sometimes if they're upset, in this instance, she kept asking if there was any chance that he could be alive, and that we really didn't know what the patient that ambulance 1 took. We really didn't know what his condition was, and but figuring that it was a hypothermia type case, being the conditions outside. We were trying to give her hope that there's a saying in the medical field, you're not dead until you're warm and dead. And I was basically the stories of children falling through ice and falling into rivers and being underwater for multiple hours and coming out, being resuscitated and having no neurological deficits. So I was telling her those stories just kind of to say, look, let's be sure we'll get to the hospital, we'll find out more there. Just trying to give her any sort of hope that her husband would be alive.
Can you describe her demeanor when she was in the back of the ambulance with you during your interactions with her?
She would go from pretty upset, crying. One instance where she kept saying, I can't take care of these kids. I can't take care of these kids. They're not my kids, and they're not his kids. And at that point, I understood who ambulance one had taken, because John was pretty well known in the town for taking on the care of his niece and nephew. So I said, listen, it's okay. It looks like you have a very strong support system. And then Miss Reed said, do you know Carrie Roberts? And she had been crying. And she picked her head up and said, do you know Carrie Roberts? And I said, as a matter of fact, I do. And she said, anybody who knows Carrie Roberts wouldn't say that about her. And I said, well, she did come to out early in the morning to look for your husband in a blizzard. And she just rolled her eyes and put her head back down. And I thought it was just bizarre.
Objection, move to strike.
I'll strike that last sentence.
Would you describe her demeanor as even
Yeah,
through
that was
right?
a non-responsive
How long
statement.
did it take to get to the hospital?
I mean, you can refer to my partner's ambulance.
The jury still
report, which
heard
has
it,
the-
but
Do
it'll be
you have a
struck
right
from
with
the
you, sir?
record.
I do not know.
Well, let me ask you.
I would guess about 15 to 20 minutes somewhere in there.
You don't have an exact memory?
No,
When you get to the hospital with a patient under these circumstances, do you leave them at the door?
no.
What do you do?
We have to hand off care. So we go in and we have to give a report to a nurse to let them know what their condition is, why they're coming to the hospital, and what we found taking them to the hospital.
When you got to the hospital with Miss Reed, did you interact with the hospital personnel?
Yes.
Do you typically, after you hand off a patient to staff, do you leave?
Typically, yes. This time, Miss Reed was, I'm going to say, not really cooperative with the nurse there. The nurse was asking her to get into a Johnny
No.
ER sample. She
It wasn't
was
cooperative?
not cooperative. The nurse
You don't
tried to
say.
work with her, had an ER tech go and ask the doctor if she had to get into a Johnny. She came back. She said, yes, she's a patient. She has to do all the normal stuff. We really didn't feel comfortable actually leaving the general area. I don't know if it was a shift change or what, but security wasn't there. And with her demeanor, we just didn't feel comfortable leaving the nurse by herself with Miss Reed.
You said that there was some difficult times. Was there some difficulty about the defendant accepting wearing a Johnny?
Yes, she was refusing to get into the Johnny, and the nurse kept saying, well, you got to get into this Johnny. The nurse did try to work with her.
I think they were talking
and,
about a
asked
zoot
the doctor
suit, like a little white paper outfit. So
And so
you can't use
the
it
ER
for
guy
yourself or
had
your
to come
clothes.
back and say, yes, she has to get into the Johnny. And at that point, she did.
Yeah, that's
she,
what they're talking about.
seemed to have calmed down and was getting into the Johnny. Security personnel had shown up, and we felt comfortable being able to kind of leave the nurse and the tech on our own.
Before security came, was there difficulty in her providing a urine sample?
Do you know the answer to that?
Can you ask the question again? I'm sorry.
Why don't you ask it a little different?
Sure. Do you remember whether she was giving the nurses a hard time about a urine sample?
Yes.
So break that down, Mr. Brennan. The objection is sustained.
You said that she was giving nurses a hard time.
She didn't want to give a urine sample. And the nurses kept asking her to, this is the cup, you pee in the cup.
Objection. Last one, please.
No one going along.
You were there and saw this, right?
I saw it, yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Objection, Your Honor.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, you knew before you got into ambulance 2 that you were heading to Fairview Road for what was called a Section 12, correct?
We were dispatched for a Section 12, correct?
And that was not your first call for a Section 12, right?
No.
You had been in that job since 2006?
Yes.
You've handled a number of them over the years, correct?
Correct.
The fact that the call came in as a Section 12 gave you some idea of the nature of the issue that you might be dealing with, correct?
We had an idea that it was for a psychological issue, correct?
It told you that somebody at that location was suspected of being in some type of either psychiatric or emotional distress, correct?
Yes.
And on your crew, or of your crew, I should say, you were the one to drive the ambulance 2 to the residence, correct?
I drove to the address at Fairview.
Now, you said that when you got to Fairview Road, you don't recall the time, but you do recall that there were still emergency vehicles on scene, correct?
I do.
There was nobody lying in the front lawn of 34 Fairview at that time, correct?
Correct.
And do you know how much later after 6 a.m. you would have gone there?
You'd have to refer to my partner's report.
You don't know if it was minutes or hours?
It was minutes. It was within the hour. I don't know.
Within the hour, okay. And you said that you testified that there were 2 police vehicles on scene, correct?
At least 2.
At least 2. There could have been more than 2.
It certainly could have been.
And those police vehicles, in such a situation, particularly with the snow falling down, would have had their blue lights flashing?
I'm not exactly sure if they did or if they didn't. Sometimes the police shut off their lights when they arrive on scene. Sometimes they don't.
Okay, so you don't have a memory one way or the other.
No, nothing sticks out.
But those police vehicles certainly were not hidden. They were in plain view, correct?
I would say so.
Minimum of 2, maybe more. Correct?
Yes.
And there was also a gray SUV parked near that residence?
Correct.
And there was a fire engine there as well, correct?
Correct.
You called it our engine, right? That was from
Well, it would be engine 3,
engine 3 from
or at
your
least
station.
the station 1 engine.
I'm sorry?
The
And they
station
were
1
people
engines.
standing
So
around
even
too,
fires to
weren't
fire
there?
stations,
They had
come up to
clothes on, didn't they?
the station. The station 1 engine is the one that responded to failure.
Okay, and that was a typical large fire engine, correct?
Yeah.
And did the fire engine
And they
have
had
a
a doggy that
There were police officers walking about, milling about?
Yes.
Do you know how many?
I
got
know
to the
I spoke
people.
with
Yep.
Officer Sarah and Officer Mulaney.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure you remember
And
after
you know that
3
when-
years how many cops were there.
Yeah,
I'm
Canton's a
sure.
fairly small town, so you know you run into the police on a
Co-ops.
regular basis.
Sure, and you work cooperatively with them, correct?
Yes,
Were there other police officers besides Sarah and Mulaney?
I'm sure there could have been.
These or firefighters there when you got there?
Just my Lieutenant Woodbury, and then Firefighter Sandpock.
Okay, and they were in charge of engine 1?
Well, the station 1 engine.
The station 1 engine? Okay. And there were also civilians on scene, correct?
Correct.
So you would agree that there was a lot of activity outside 34 Fairview, correct?
Fair amount of
I
activity.
mean, there were people and vehicles and lights surrounding that residence, correct?
I assume so. Yes,
Well, you were there, so you don't really have to assume. You know, right?
there was at least 2 police cruisers and a fire engine.
Right, and civilians, and police officers, and firefighters, correct? And civilians.
Correct.
All right. With all of that activity outside 34 Fairview, did you ever see the homeowner come out of his house?
I wouldn't have known the homeowner.
Do you ever see anybody exit the house?
I was not focused on the house at all.
All right. You were there to do a job, correct?
I was there to take somebody to the hospital.
Right. And you were there also to do a medical or psychiatric assessment while you were on scene, correct?
Well, yes, my partner was.
All right. When you got there, you learned, well, I have to strike that. You knew going there that your patient would have been Karen Reed, correct?
No.
That's
Okay.
funny. He
When you
struck
got there,
himself.
You learned your
I've
patient was
done that
Karen Reed,
quite a few
correct?
times.
Yes.
All right. And given the nature of the call, you knew when you arrived that you would be transporting her to the hospital, correct?
Correct.
One of the first things that you tried to do was to get a medical history from her,
Yeah, we're
correct?
almost done.
Or my partner.
All right. And you were present for that, correct?
I may or may not have been.
Getting a medical history is important so that you can pass along information to the hospital when you eventually arrive there with the
20
patient,
minutes.
correct?
Yes.
And you
Sweet.
know that when assessing and treating somebody, getting more information is always better than getting less
Sucks,
information.
man. I
correct?
lost all that
Not necessarily.
after
Okay, so
I only
you
had an
verified
hour
that
to
you
go
want
in that
to
last
get less
stream.
information from a patient before you transport them?
So it would be pertinent information. For instance, if somebody was complaining of chest pain and they had stents placed in their heart, we wouldn't talk about how they had their tonsils removed when they were 12.
Okay, fair enough. But getting more information is not going to negate the crucial information that you do get, correct?
I mean, it certainly could in a critical stage. If there was a critical patient, we wouldn't typically overburden passing off a report to a nurse or a doctor with non-pertinent information.
Okay, it's not your testimony that getting less information is always better than getting more information, is it?
I would say getting pertinent information is better than
That
having.
wasn't my question. My question was, is it your testimony that getting less information is always better than getting more information, sir?
I would not agree with that. No.
Okay, thank you. Now, the medical history
That's a
that
good
was taken
question.
from Ms. Reed listed
Good
her as
question.
having multiple
I'm gonna-
sclerosis, right?
I want to see it, Tyler, please.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, it's rare that the defendant actually gets to go up. She does technically have a right to go up for sidebar. Technically, she does, but you're never going to see it. I'm kind of shocked they do it there. Usually, it's just the attorney and the judge going to be like, sit your ass down. I don't want you up here. Your attorney can tell you. But technically, she should be able to. Technically. I mean, she's the one on trial. Excuse me. All right, let's see. This shouldn't take but a couple of minutes. Yeah, there we go. I guess they keep coming back to this dude. I'm guessing that's his brother. Man, I hope for his sake he doesn't have like Tourette's like I do or something, man. People will be like, what the hell's wrong with him? That would suck. Oh, let's just pan everybody. I mean, Jesus. Asshole cameraman. Okay. How much more time is this going to take? Oh, God. Jerry had to leave, I guess.
Thank you. Sir, the medical testimony,
Oh.
I'm sorry, history that your partner and you took from Ms. Reed listed that she suffered from multiple sclerosis, correct?
Correct.
And you know that that's a chronic disease of the central nervous system?
Ooh,
It's my understanding.
And what does chronic mean?
that's bad.
I believe any disease lasting more than a certain amount of time. It could be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
Persists for a long time or constantly recurs?
Correct.
And it's a disease that affects neurological muscle control, correct?
That's my understanding.
And last question, it's also a progressive disease, which means it tends to get worse over time.
My understanding.
All right, now, when you first interacted with Karen Reed after you got to 34 Fairview and encountered that whole scene, it was clear to you that a major focus for her was whether John O'Keefe was alive or dead, correct?
Correct.
Bless you. She asked if somebody could survive after having been found in the snow without a jacket, correct?
For many hours, correct.
All right. And you mentioned something about hypothermia, that you assumed that you may have been dealing with a hypothermia situation from earlier, correct?
Well, she said that he had been out in the snow with no jacket on for many hours.
And you assumed hypothermia was your testimony, correct?
Yes.
You are not qualified to diagnose hypothermia, are you?
I'm not a doctor.
Okay. And you don't know if your assumption about hypothermia was correct or incorrect, correct?
Is my assumption correct?
My question is that as you testify here today, after having dropped off Karen Reed at the hospital for that Section 12, you don't know if the assumption that you made that you were dealing with a hypothermia situation was correct or not. Is that right?
Well, they were certainly working on him at the hospital as a hypothermia patient.
You don't know if your assumption was correct or not, sir.
I guess I don't.
And you told her, in fact, that you could not speak to that, correct?
I'm sorry, to what?
In terms of how long somebody could survive outside, correct?
I couldn't speak to his condition is basically what I was trying to say to her.
But she still persisted in asking you over and over if he was alive or dead, correct?
Correct.
She wouldn't let that go. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
And that was despite your not being able to give her an answer, correct?
Again, we were just trying to sort of give her any hope.
Right. Okay, so she kept asking it.
I'm gonna get 4 witnesses in today.
Correct. All right, now, today
Wow.
you claimed that her demeanor had
4.
changed
Just 4.
when you mentioned Kerry Roberts, correct?
Correct.
And the term that you used to describe her demeanor when you mentioned Kerry Roberts as being part of the support system, what term did you use?
I'm sorry.
When you just testified on direct examination, did you characterize the way that she reacted when you mentioned
She had been crying in her hands, and I said, it looks like you have a very strong support system. And she picked up her head. She had her face in her hands. She picked up her head out of her hands, looked at me, and said, "Do you know Kerry Roberts?" And I said, "Matter of fact, I do." And she said, "Anybody who knows Kerry Roberts wouldn't say that about her."
Okay, and you've previously described that in testimony last year as her being snarky was the term you used, correct? But you were first interviewed by the police on February 8th of 2022, correct?
That's what the report says, yes.
About 10 days after this?
About that.
And the events of January 29th were fresh in your mind on February 8th of 2022, correct?
As fresh as they are today.
Okay, so you do not allow that your memory was better on February 8th of 2022 regarding January 29th of 2022. It wasn't better on February 8th than it is today, is your testimony.
I would feel it's just as good.
Okay. Your memory does not get better over time, correct?
For this case, it seemed to stick out to me.
Okay, so are you testifying that your memory gets better over time?
No, but
That would be crazy, wouldn't it?
correct.
In that February 8th, 2022 interview, you were asked about Kerry Roberts, right?
I'm sorry, what day?
February 8th of 2022.
Okay.
You were asked about Kerry Roberts, right?
I do not recall if I was or was not.
You told the police that you knew Kerry Roberts from your neighborhood, correct?
Okay, yes.
And you've testified today that she just lived 200 yards away from you, right around the corner, right?
About that.
And you told police that you had seen Kerry Roberts on scene at 34 Fairview when you got there, correct?
Correct.
You also told police that Karen Reed had told you about making statements about her wanting to die, correct?
Correct.
But on February 8th of 2022, just 10 days after these events, you never mentioned to the police during that interview that Karen was snarky in any way, correct?
I don't know if I did or I didn't. I don't know if it would be in their report.
If you saw that report, would it refresh your memory as to whether or not you mentioned snarkiness?
I don't think I mentioned snarkiness that day. No.
All right, well, that is my question.
Okay.
But after that interview, and of course, even after January 29th of 2022, you went back to your neighborhood, the same neighborhood that you lived in with Kerry Roberts, correct?
Correct.
Do you still live in that neighborhood? Does Kerry Roberts still live there?
She does.
So you and Kerry Roberts have continued to live in the same neighborhood for years after January 29th, correct?
We have.
And before you ever encountered Karen Reed that day, you had interacted with Kerry Roberts in the past, correct?
Briefly, yes.
Well, you were both on the same neighborhood Facebook page, were you not?
Yes, that's why I volunteered to bring the fire truck to the
Right.
block party.
Well, one time she had posted on that neighborhood Facebook page that she wanted to have a fire truck at the neighborhood block party, correct?
Correct.
And that's when you replied and volunteered that you would bring the fire truck to that block party as she requested, correct?
Correct.
And you also worked with Kerry Roberts on the Palm
Everybody
Park Civic
in
Association,
the
did you not?
town knows
I
each
did not
other.
know.
It's a
She
small
worked on the board prior
town.
to my arrival on board.
So you both worked
So-
on the same board, but just at different times.
Different times, correct.
Them having
touched on this earlier. In
contacts
addition
are not gonna be
knowing
out
Kerry
of the
Roberts, having
norm.
been with the Canton Fire Department since 2006. There have been many times when you've worked in conjunction with the police, correct?
Correct.
And in addition to the two police officers that you mentioned having seen at 34 Fairview on January 29th, that being Sarath and Mullaney, you know many other officers at the Canton police station.
I do.
And as you say, Canton's a small town, correct?
Relatively.
People know each other, correct?
Correct.
You also knew former state trooper, Michael Proctor, before you arrived at 34 Fairview, correct?
Well, that's the guy who was
Michael
defrocked.
Proctor actually was 2 years ahead of you in school, was he not?
He was.
And you learned at some point
That I do
your
know
school
about.
classmate, Michael Proctor, was the lead investigator into the
Apparently,
death
he
of John
was
O'Keefe's case,
a
correct?
bad cop.
And in fact, when you spoke to the police in February of 2022, Michael Proctor was one of the troopers to interview you, correct?
Correct.
You did not go to school with Karen Reed, right?
Nope, not to my knowledge.
You didn't help coordinate neighborhood block parties with Karen Reed, right?
Nope.
You were not in a civic association that Karen Reed belonged to at any point, correct?
Nope.
She was a stranger to you on January 29th, 2022, correct?
She was a patient of mine, yes.
Well, as far as you knew, she was an outsider to Canton, correct?
I did not know that.
You didn't live in the same neighborhood with her?
I'm not sure if we did or did not.
You had no personal contact with her either before or after January 29th, 2022, correct?
No.
All right. Now, as a result of your having gone to the scene, there's a patient care record that is generated, correct?
Correct.
All right. And on this issue of the snarkiness and the demonstration that you just did,
Well, he's
there's a
nervous.
contemporaneous report of your team's observations from January
Rubbing
29th,
his
right?
head.
Are you referring to my partner's run report?
Yeah, the patient care report.
Yes.
All right. And that patient care report
All
is
right,
dated
buddy.
January 29th,
You're gonna be
2022,
fine.
and is timed at 9:03 and 34 seconds a.m. Does that sound right?
Sounds about right.
All right. And that 9:03:34, from your knowledge of how patient care reports are generated, would that be the time that you arrived on scene or the time that the report is written?
I mean, I would have to see what time, the exact time you're referring to, but it could be the time the call is closed, which, or it could be the time you finish the report. It could be multiple reports. I'm not exactly positive which report you're talking about.
Okay. In any case, it was from that morning, correct?
Well, I assume so.
I mean, there was only one morning that you went to 34 Fairview.
Well, no, but there could be two reports. So the engine has to write a report and the ambulance has to write a report.
But they're both about that morning, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, there are boxes to fill out on the patient care record, correct?
Correct.
One of the boxes is primary impression.
Yes.
What does primary impression mean?
That is just what we believe the patient's not complaint is, but what we believe the patient is suffering from.
Okay, and that is listed on the patient care record for Karen Reed as a behavioral/psychiatric episode, correct?
Yeah, so that's a box we check for just about any section 12.
Sure, and of course that mentions nothing about snarkiness, correct?
No, that is my partner's report.
Okay, there's also a box for secondary impression, correct?
Correct.
What is secondary impression?
That might be like just a secondary complaint most of the time. A lot of the times, patients don't have a secondary complaint.
Okay, but in this case, it's listed as anxiety/emotional upset, correct?
Yes,
All right, and again, that mentions nothing about snarkiness, correct?
that's my partner's report, yes.
There's also a box for signs and symptoms, right?
There is.
And nowhere in the signs and symptoms box is snarkiness mentioned, correct?
Nope, I don't think that would be medically appropriate.
And then in the patient care record, it's recorded that Karen was found sitting in the front passenger seat of a friend's car, crying and visibly upset but cooperative, right?
That's my partner's words, yes.
All right. And those words actually nowhere in the
Well, then
patient
why
care
not the
record is
partner
listed that
testify?
she's
Why are
snarking
you
anyway,
up?
correct?
Again, that would not be something we would put into patient care report.
And you did not put it in, correct?
It was my partner's report, and no, we did not put it in.
Okay.
Why are you
And,
testifying
once
to
Ms.
it?
Reed agreed to go with you in the ambulance, it's fair to say she was still upset
Why
and
is
crying,
he? Why
correct?
is he testifying? Write his damn testimony. I don't understand why he's up here. Every time he talks, he says, "Well, my partner did it." Okay. Where is he? She probably was snarky. She seems like a snarky woman.
Okay. You just testified that you said at times she was upset and crying when she got in the ambulance, correct?
Correct.
You testified on April 21st of 2022 before the grand jury, did you not?
I did,
And that was 3 months after the events that you're testifying about today?
roughly.
And your memory back then was fresh, was it not?
Yes.
And you were asked the question, once she was in the back of the ambulance and she agreed voluntarily to go to the hospital, did she appear to calm down at that point? Do you remember that question?
I do.
And your answer was, I mean, she wasn't arguing against us at that point. I mean, once she, agreed to come with us voluntarily, I mean, she was still upset, crying, and talking on the phone. Do you remember that answer?
I do.
You didn't mention in that answer that it was only at times that she was crying and upset, correct?
No.
Okay. The whole time, from beginning to end, Ms. Reed was constantly worried about John, was she not?
Objection.
Sustained.
You recall that she was on the phone at one point speaking to someone that she called Papa, correct?
Correct.
Did you later learn that Papa was John O'Keefe Sr.?
Weird
I just
them
learned
not
that.
having to
And
explain
in
their
any case, you heard her
objections.
say to Papa,
I
is he
don't think
dead?
I've heard
He's
one
dead,
yet.
isn't he?
Sustained.
Yet again.
Here on the other end of the line, that Papa was saying something to her, correct?
The objection sustained.
May I approach?
The witness or me?
Sidebar.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't blame you, buddy, because I'm confused. I have no idea why in the hell they're objecting that much. So I guess in Massachusetts, it's normal for the defendant to go on up. Holy God almighty, she needs to stay away from plastic surgeon. Jesus. Lady, leave it alone. Gain a few pounds. Go eat you some food. Good Lord. It looks like this may kill it for the day. Come on. This isn't abnormal. I mean, the sidebars are usually it only happens when you want things not on the record, and usually it's after a few things have gone on, and you don't want that. Even if it's in your favor with candor with the court, you're supposed to at least try to prevent miscarriages of justice or whatever. And so you may go and say, hey, look, we need to have a sidebar because he keeps bringing it up. It might help me, but he needs to stop bringing it up because it still violates a rule, or it may, it's couth. Sometimes it's just about being, the correct couth in court, or whether or not they're bringing up stuff they shouldn't bring in. It could be a million things, but it's stuff you don't want a jury to hear. It's just odd that the defendant gets to go up there. Let's see if we can get
Compilation that I can look at in advance if you don't.
Yeah, I was afraid of that. Lord Almighty. Here we go.
All right, so I would like to move things along a little bit more expeditiously tomorrow. What would be very helpful to me, Mr. Brennan, are these clips. I haven't seen any, I haven't watched anything on television about any of these. Do you have them all in one compilation that I can look at in advance? If you don't, you don't.
I thought we had provided to the court. If we haven't, we will. May I have a moment?
Sure.
Jeez. She's about at it.
Is it 100 hours or something, or is it?
No, we sent the share file, but it's my oversight. We should have brought in a hard copy for you as well.
I don't know that I have a shared file. Is that?
Dropbox
Oh,
Monday that we sent, but I can put it on a zip drive as I should have.
A Dropbox?
I couldn't open that. It needed an email and it didn't accept mine.
Didn't realize the court didn't have access. We will get a zip file. And
All right, you talk to Tori about it, okay, Tori? You'll get it for me. All right,
the intention was that you'd have an advanced opportunity to look at them. I'll fix that failure.
all right. Have your
You
associate.
fucked
copy,
up.
Tori.
I will.
All right.
You
All right,
messed
anything
up
to
there,
report
buddy.
tomorrow?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
And that's it. Okay. So that's it. That's day 2 of the Karen Reed trial. Got some good insight here into what the state's trying to bring in. We'll have to see what whom they bring in tomorrow. I imagine eventually, probably tomorrow, we'll start seeing detectives. I have a bad suspicion that the defense is going to do I didn't do it, someone else did, and dropped him there, which is probably, I think she'll end up getting a good prison sentence out of it if that's the case. It's just not going to work. Nobody's going to believe it. They're just not. There's not a one-armed man that killed her wife. It's just, I don't know. It's a bad idea. I think that they should have gone with if it happened, I didn't know it. I told him to get in the car and I didn't see him. We had an argument and he walked off, and yeah, she might hit a manslaughter charge out of it, but it's better than a murder charge. I think if she continues with this defense, that's what's going to happen. And based on what our questioning is, or their questioning of their cross of everybody today, it makes me think that that's what they're going to do. We don't have a good view into it yet because this is just the state's case. So they've put on just their first witness who was there, obviously the EMT that took care of her, and then a detective that did the phone record check. But tomorrow should be a little bit more in depth. This is still a cursory view of the case. And again, they should be building up like a mountain. And then eventually we'll get to the peak, and then you start traversing it and go down the other side, and eventually you're over it. So, and at the end, obviously, is the jury verdict. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Thanks, y'all. See you later. Thanks.